Hello everybody, welcome to another video. I'm a bit sick at the minute to be honest, so I might sound a bit funny. Um, but yeah, so thank you very much by the way for the comments on my last video. It was really good to see everyone, quite a few of you comment and let me know that it was a decent track guide, which is very nice. It's also a bit of motivation to do more. Currently, so I'm just going to waffle for like 2 minutes if I may. I will probably put a timestamp of when I stop waffling, but this video is going to be basically about, I'm going to compare two lap times. I'm going to compare my lap time against someone who's quite far off the pace, and we'll see exactly what they're doing wrong, because on my last video there's a comment and it was some guy who said that he was doing 47s or something like that, and he can't see why after watching these track guides. So I know there's probably a few of you in that position, because I remember when I first started sim racing, I felt like I was hitting track guides pretty much perfectly, and I'd still be very far off the pace, especially in ACC. So we're gonna go through that because I don't think it's been talked about enough, to be honest, in the community. I don't see any videos on this, so we're gonna go through it together. So what's this week? So this week is Monza, and not gonna lie, I hate the track. It's really boring, extremely boring. So we can see the qualifying time. This is my first race. Is a 30.356. This is post nerf, by the way. We had a bop change for the Acura, so it's a bit slower. I'd suspect that it's probably a 2 tenths maybe slower. It's something like that because I did a few laps with my team, composite performance, pre-nerf, and it was my optional best was like a 29.8, and now I think it could be like a 30 flat at best. So I think it's probably about 2 tenths slower. But let's go through this together. So we're at turn two at Road America here, and the thing that I want you to look at is I want you to look at my inputs specifically. So only my steering angle, my throttle, and my brake. I haven't looked. We're just going to choose some guy here, and we're going to look what exactly is different. We're going to try and spot the difference, almost like a game. So to reiterate, look at my throttle, look at my brake, look at my steering. The most important thing is the brake by a long shot. So put most of your focus on there. So we are at turn two here. Let's watch what I did. So as you can see, we're not using much steering angle here, and we're sort of balancing the car, the brake a lot. We're using that 5% trail brake, and and we sort of overlap the inputs. We sort of connect the 1% of the brake to the 1% of the throttle. To illustrate this, I will go into Paint. Please load. There we go. So if we have our inputs right here, so this is, oh dude, that's a terrible graph. Okay, so we have brake here. We hold that 100%, then we're trailing off, trailing off, trailing off, trailing off. What we should see, so the red is the brake and the green is the throttle, as it usually is. What we want to sort of see is this, almost like a connection of the 1%, if that makes sense, because we don't want any coast time in this GTP, like at all. The reason why is because we want the weight on the front tyres. When we're on the brake, we have weight transfer on the front. It's only a little bit. We don't think, when I'm trail braking, I don't think necessarily that I'm slowing the car down more. It's just to get that extra rotation in, because we want to rotate as much as possible with any given speed, pretty much. But obviously we don't want to oversteer. So we want to rotate as much as possible, but not oversteer. So that's why we do this transfer over. If we coasted, then now there's no weight on the fronts, so we get understeer, and then we have to get back on the throttle later, and you're going to think, oh, maybe I'm taking too much entry speed in, maybe I need to take less entry speed in. So then it becomes a rabbit hole, because we're trying to fix something that was never a problem, almost. So we want to connect our inputs. But anyway, so let's look at, I don't know, let's see. So us three, me, David. David was in my comments on the last video. Thank you very much. David's very fast. He's in 7.8k rater, I think, or he might even be 8k now. Patrick is a 9.2k rater, and he sort of messed up his qualifying. I think he would have been a tenth or two faster than me and David, but he does race for Williams Esports, so there's that. So let's look at, I don't know, we'll go someone who's quite far off the pace. So Harry White. Okay, so let's see what we're doing here. So he brakes here, about the same as me. I can't see his input, but I can pretty much see where his steering angle is at. So we can see how much more steering angle he's using just in the first corner at the second corner alone. This is a big giveaway that he's understeering, a massive giveaway. He's trying to ask for more rotation with the steering, but in reality we should ask more rotation with the brakes. If we looked at the exact same spot, so that was about a 90-degree steering input, we're way less than 90. You know, we're more at like 45 degrees, if that, you know. So we're using a lot less steering angle because we're probably trail braking more aggressively. And what I mean by trail braking more aggressively, we hold a higher percentage of the final phase of the trail brake. If you hold a high percentage in the final phase, you'll gain more rotation. You got to think of the steering angle is sort of like a point and shoot sort of thing, and the brake is the actual turning. Or yeah, I think that's probably the best explanation I can give with the brake. The brake is the most important pedal in the car by such a far margin. Anyone can turn their steering angle at the right degrees. Everyone can turn the steering at the right rate. Everyone can steer a wheel, right? It's really easy. But what not many people can do is control that final finesse of the rotation on the brake pedal. It's the biggest thing that we should look at. So let's skip ahead. We'll go into turn 3. I know that one of these turns before is a turn, but I'm not counting these straights as turns. I'm sorry. So we're braking about at the 2 board. Honestly, braking points, they're very important. Don't get me wrong, but I think the biggest time gained is during that finesse of the braking. If you can find the finesse of the brake, you'll easily be able to, because everyone can hit a braking marker, can't they? But not everyone can do that finesse of the brake. But anyway, let's look at what we did here. So we used less steering angle than he did in a corner that is way tighter. We can also see we're trail braking a lot, using that final bit of the brake to sort of get the car nicely rotated, and we're accelerating before we even exit the corner, or even before we hit the apex. But we also look at our entry. We're bringing it all the way out wide here. We're exploiting every track limit possible. If you're not exploiting track limits, that's where you go wrong. Okay, so let's go to, I want to do some on in the Acura, not going to lie. Okay, here we go. So we go here. So a lot of loads of steering angle again. So this is another person, lots of steering angle. And we can see also here that he's sort of artificially extending his track limits. You see how he opens up so much? He could take the entry faster and have a better mid-corner speed. If you're artificially extending track limits, meaning that you sort of guide the car out by itself. So you guide the car out instead of the car guiding itself out. If that makes sense. The car, you don't want to, so imagine you don't want to use all the track limit. You want to stay on track, but the car is forcing itself out onto the track limit, on the very edge of the track limit. That's when you know you took a corner well. But anyway, let's compare our turn 2, turn 3 even. So, yeah, brakes basically at the same point. So here we go. First mistake, not using all the track. Our racing track limits are stupid. Some of the corners, it's like you have so much, you can use so much entry, you're literally off the track, and then some corners, oh, you touched the gravel, that's a 1x. So yeah, we can see why this mistake is formed, because you'd think that the edge of the track is obviously this curb or something like that, but no, you can have two wheels off this curb. So we can forgive this man for this mistake. It's you know, I'd probably make it if I wasn't testing track limits actively. Oh, massive understeer. This was a combination, I think, of dropping the brake too quickly and also using so much steering angle. We use less than 90, and he is beyond 90 right now. That's a lot of steering angle. As you can see, he also short shifted because he probably thought, "Oh, I'm understeering." So now he's trying to get on the. So now he's having a slower exit. So he's compromised the entire section here, the entire section, which has cost him a lot of time. So he used all the track limit because the car wanted to, but it was for the wrong reasons, because he was just understeering off a cliff. Because he probably dropped the brake too quickly, which is the most likely thing. He also used way too much steering angle to compensate, because he was thinking, because now that he's dropped the brake pedal, you obviously have, if you drop it too quickly, now the balance shifts. The front suspension pops up, and then you have this huge bit of understeer. So he's tried to compensate with more steering angle, which has just made the whole situation worse. Okay, so we come in to bridge corner. I call it crest corner. I don't know the actual name. That wasn't actually too bad. The only bar what I didn't like is that he got on the power too late. I think it's because he also probably understeered here. Yeah, so he was understeering on exit. So he's now has to get on the throttle later. Let's look at me. I know I'm not too proficient actually on that corner, but let's look at it. Yeah, so we can immediately see the difference. We can see how much rotation I built, with a lot less steering, like a massive amount less steering angle, because of this brake. It's not magic. I want you to see that it's not magic. People think that you have to have some crazy talent to be fast. I don't think so. I think it's just about understanding stuff like this and then applying it to your learning. So many people understand this, but no one takes the time to apply it, because they think, because initially when you try something, you're going to overcompensate for it. You're going to overdo it almost. So if I was trying to do yet less steering angle, I'd literally overcompensate and do too little steering angle. So what you need to do is you need to apply something. You might be slower originally, but you need to keep at it, and in the long run, it'll benefit you. Even short run, after like a week or two, you'll probably be right on it. It'll feel like second nature. You will never understand why you did your old ways again. So let's skip forward a little bit. So we come into this corner. This corner is very important because we have a massive straight. We also setting up the long right-hander carousel. There's a lot of time to be found in this one corner specifically. So we brake quite early here, to be honest. It was about at the two board actually. It wasn't too bad. Yeah, so we hook up that corner pretty nice. So we could have used a bit more entry track limit. But we can see that the car really just spits itself out onto this track limit. So if we go back to, I think it was Natal. Yeah, it was. Okay, so if we go to Natal here, that wasn't a bad lap at all. A 43.528 is really good actually. So let's see. So that was actually really good. You used quite a bit of steering angle, but you still got the rotation. You used quite a nice amount of track as well, so actually that was a very good example. So we can still use more steering angle, we just don't want to be excessive with it. Especially if you're more, so different people have different driving styles, and I prefer to build all my rotation on the brakes. Some people prefer more steering, so you might see a bit more steering angle throughout a corner. But I think it was, yeah, Jose Kaplan. Oh, why does it keep doing this, man? Right, lap 2, please. Alright. Yeah, Patrick messed up his qualifying. Okay, so we're braking at the 2 board. Yeah. So you can see that he really hesitated here. He really wasn't smooth. I think he almost seemed not confident in what he was doing. So that's a bit of a mistake. He also broke a little bit prematurely here. Which would explain why he sort of jabbed the steering and then was like, oh no, I'm going to cut too much and then I need to release. So he could have broke later here and just floated through the corner, so carried more speed into the corner. And that'll naturally widen the corner radius, because if we think to our... If we go to this, new... If we are travelling at a constant speed, we have a perfect circle. Imagine that's that's a really good circle. Okay, we'll go to a new one. Okay, so if we're going at a constant speed, we have a perfect radius. It's equal. The circle is completely equal, right? If we were just turning at the same steering angle at the same speed, we'd go in a perfect circle, right? Now, if we are speeding up, what happens? So initially it starts off quite little, then it grows and grows. This is if we're accelerating, right? We increase the radius of the corner. If we're decelerating, the opposite happens. So instead of going out, it's going to come in like this. So this is also why when we trail brake into a corner, the initial part of the trail brake, when we're still quite hard on the brakes, the car is starting to progressively rotate more. So that's why coasting is not always useful. It is if you have a constant corner radius, or it's a corner that you don't have to brake, or you can't take flat out, then coasting is perfectly okay. But if it's a braking zone like this, coasting is a bit... No, we shouldn't do it. It shouldn't be excessive at all. In my opinion, how I drive, I have no coast at all. It's always one or the other. And we'll see here. See how he merged the input almost? Because now I'm happy with the rotation that I've just gained. So now I'm just going to come back on the throttle. I could drop the brake at this point, but I'm a bit more... It's more comfortable because I'm in qualifying anyway, so I don't care about how much fuel I'm using. If you're in an endurance race, do not overlap. But in qualifying, we can. So we can see it all through here. No coast. There's no coasting. That was the almost no coasting. Basically no coasting. Again, we're connecting the inputs together. Again, we're connecting inputs. Here we coast. Well, almost coast. The conditions are pretty good. A 42.9 is ridiculously good for this track. But obviously the conditions were better. Usually it was about 43.3, 43.2. But this was just a very good condition track, so everyone was putting down some insane laps. So we can coast through there. I mean, we don't really coast, but let's say if we couldn't take it, the conditions didn't allow for it, then coasting is perfectly fine. No coasting again. See, we're connecting the inputs. There. Boom. Connecting. That's what we want to see. Teeny bit of coast here. I think I hesitated a bit too much here. I remember I lost most time on this corner. I hesitated too much. So we can see a little bit of a mistake, and that cost me a few hundredths of a second, which is actually quite a lot. I remember when I was first into a sim race, and I was like, 100th, nothing, no time. But once you progress, you start to you can really notice the difference between a corner that is 100th of a second better versus a corner that's 100th of a second worse. So it's all about building up that sensitivity to time to get the feel of what a corner should feel like, if that makes sense. So I hope that maybe helped some of you. I do quite like doing these, I can't lie. Yeah, so the track guide for Monza will come out shortly. At the moment I'm just a bit sick, so my lap times are a little bit dwindling, to say the least. But yeah, it wasn't an awful qualifying by any means, but it's just that wasn't. I didn't really feel like I was driving too good, if that makes sense. Like you can still win a race, but be angry with yourself of how you drove. That's perfectly normal. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully it helped.